Episode 1 starts off right where season 1 ended, literally by replaying this final scene of the season 1 finale, where Ellie asks Joel to swear to her that everything he said about the Fireflies is true. I said this in the season 1 finale of last season, and I'm gonna say it again. If Ellie has to ask, then I feel like she already knows the answer. But I think they start this season off with this scene for two reasons. If you notice throughout the episode, Ellie and Joel's relationship ain't been sunshine and rainbows, no pun intended.
Yikes.
And I think that maybe because Ellie found out the truth about what happened with the Fireflies, or at least she found out that Joel lied to her. If we look at Joel's therapy session later on in the episode, when he's confessing to his therapist about what happened to Ellie, but more specifically what he did to her, he tells his therapist that he saved her. Joel is being slick here because he's not lying to his therapist per se, but he's also not telling the therapist the truth. It's not about saving her or what he did to the Fireflies. It's about making a promise to her and breaking that promise and breaking her trust. The other thing that this opening scene does is it sets up a mirror to the following scene, because we see Ellie ask Joel to promise her, and he does. We then move to the next scene and we're introduced to Abby. Abby, who I think will play the mirror to Ellie throughout this season. I say this because even in her introduction, it mirrors Ellie's happiest moment. In the final episode of season 1, Ellie and Joel first see the giraffes before they meet the Fireflies. That moment between Joel and Ellie, after all the traumatic experiences that Ellie had to deal with throughout her journey in the first season, marked the first truly peaceful and happy moment Joel and Ellie shared since they started traveling together. But for Abby, it's the opposite. She is a Firefly and her friends and family were killed off by Joel in order for him to save Ellie. In her giraffe introduction, she is burying her friends and starting her journey to hunt down Joel. I don't know if you guys noticed, but during the burial scene with Abby, Nora, one of the Fireflies, mentions that Ellie is potentially immune before the other Firefly, Mel, shuts it down saying it's not true. I think this is important because if they know Ellie is immune, then the hope for a cure still lives on. But by shutting it down quickly, it allows them to hunt and kill her without having to have the guilt of killing humanity's only cure against the infection. But it's in that same scene that Abby has Owen promise her that he is going to help her hunt and kill Joel, essentially mirroring the opening scene with Ellie and Joel. The difference being, by the end of the episode, we know that Owen kept his promise, unlike Joel, who did not keep his promise to Ellie, setting up the clear dichotomy between the characters of Abby and Ellie, who I feel like are on a collision course for each other. We then flash forward 5 years to see Ellie getting her ass knocked down in a fight with a dude who is twice her size. Ellie still manages to win this fist fight, and we learn that it was a sparring session, but this scene establishes a few things for us. After 5 years, Ellie is now an official badass, able to take down men who are more than twice her size in a fight with no weapons, and we learn that Ellie has gotten a new tattoo. I think the tattoo is important because Ellie uses it to hide her bite mark, allowing her to be in public without having to hide her arms. If you remember in the first season, everyone's reaction to finding out Ellie has been bitten is different. Some of them don't trust her because she's infected, others want to cut her open and find out if they can make a cure from her. But we know as long as Joel's around, fuck around with Ellie if you want. I promise you, it won't end well for you. Even in her sparring session, her opponent had to pull his punches a bit because he didn't want to hurt Ellie too badly. Since, like I said, if you mess with Ellie, you have to deal with Joel. And we know Joel is very overbearing. Get it?
Did you just make that up?
Yeah.
Whatever, that pun was funny. Don't forget to click the subscribe button for more puns and breakdowns. But it was that same overbearing, overprotective side of Joel that caused him to kill the Fireflies and lie to Ellie in the first place, which is why I think it pisses her off so much that he's protecting her the way he does, because it removes her autonomy. It affects how other people interact with her, and it's just plain not cool. After seeing how Ellie has grown in the past few years, we see how Tommy's town of Jackson has grown as well. More and more people are moving there and are laying down their roots. It's so welcoming. Even the infected are laying down their roots in this town. Let me ask you guys a question. If you noticed the roots in the pipes like I did, was the first thing that crossed your mind was it could potentially be connected with other infected? Because in the first season, we learned that this disease comes from plant life, fungi to be more specific, but to be even more specific than that, we know that they are connected via a shared nervous system that is connected by roots. You would think that if we know and remember as the audience, the people who actually live in that world will remember it as well. But for some reason, no one does anything about it. In the episode, while Tommy and Ellie are hunting infected, Tommy mentioned that there were more and more infected coming around lately, as well as during the council meeting, they mentioned the amount of infected the bear killed. Not to mention that the infected are getting smarter, laying down traps, meaning the roots could just be them doing recon on the town before they attack, which might be why they are choosing to attack now, especially with how Joe has changed over the past 5 years. Joe works as a foreman now and is in therapy, dealing with the stress of raising a teenage girl. It doesn't get more normal dad vibes than that. We even see it when he's speaking to Ellie's best friend Dina. Joe, who we knew as a badass, hard ass, is now 5 years older, doing normal dad things, which I think gives me a bad feeling as to what's going to happen to Joe next episode. I think Joe's conversation with Maria was also a forewarning to Abby finding their town. In the conversation, Joe tells Maria that they can't keep letting people in. It is stressing their resources. Maria had to remind Joe that he too was once a refugee. The reason I think that the whole conversation was important is because I think that's how Abby found their town. Because Maria's always letting refugees in, it's easy to send someone in as recon to find out if Joe lives in this place. This whole episode was about recon. When Ellie convinces Tommy to let her go on patrol, their mission was a recon mission. It's during that mission we learn about the new smarter infected. Ellie explained it to Tommy and the council as it being smart and stalking her, which it was. It even tricked her by laying a plan to flank her. I think that ties together with the fact that Ellie was also doing recon at the same time, which I think Abby's story, who so far has been a dichotomic mirror of Ellie's, it would make sense that she was also doing her own recon at the same time, which I think is why and how she knew how to find where Joel was. Especially if you remember the first scene with Abby, her and her team decided that they were going to go to Seattle, Washington to regroup before looking for Joel. I looked it up and Seattle, Washington is 860 miles away from Jackson, Wyoming. And that's if you follow Google Maps' most efficient route, which in a post-apocalyptic world, I don't think Abby has access to, which makes sense as to why it would take her 5 years to find Joel. But from Seattle to wherever Joel may be could have been endless. So I think it makes more sense that she would have people scouting and reporting back. That's what Ellie was supposed to be doing on her trip before her and Dina decided to go all Rambo zombie killers on the infected. Also, before Ellie killed the smart infected, it bit her. Do you think that that's going to be an important plot point for the rest of the season? I feel like this episode made it a point to emphasize Ellie being immune. If you remember in the beginning, when the Fireflies mentioned that she might have been immune, there was also her getting a tattoo to cover her first bite mark. And then when she's talking to Tommy and he told her they're not supposed to talk about it, Ellie started screaming it out until he let her go on patrol. It's on that same patrol that she got bit. She then went all badass and knifed the bite mark to cover it up. But I think it's going to come up again, and I think it's going to come up with Dina. Am I the only one that notices Ellie keeps falling in love with her best friends and she always ends up kissing them? Talk about getting out the friend zone. This episode does spend a little more time on Ellie's sexuality. I didn't think in a world where there's literally infected zombie creatures out there that it would matter, but I guess I was wrong. What's interesting though is that Dina said that Ellie used to mess around with Mel, the only other gay person there, which I think establishes that Dina is not gay. But since she was drunk and also mad at her boyfriend, she wanted to make a scene, which is why she kissed Ellie. The thing is though, I think Ellie does have a real crush on her. You can tell by how she looks at her, but even more obvious was when she was writing her notebook. After she wrote Dina's amazing BBQ pun joke, you could see Ellie writing under that to not fuck it up. That might be a direct reference to her relationship with Dina, but now that Dina has kissed her and blurred the lines, I can't help but think that it will come up again. Maria also told the council she doesn't think Dina saw what Ellie saw, but when she was fighting the infected, I do believe Dina saw Ellie get bit, and I think it will come up again. It does seem like everything comes back up in this series, especially when it deals with Joel. Joel is now in therapy, but I think Joe's therapy session might be a little different than mine, I hope, since Joe's therapist, Gail, gets paid in weed, smokes and drinks before the session. The worst part is the fact that she hates Joe, and she told him, which I respect, because even though she hates Joe, she still keeps it professional and tries to help her patient, which ties back to Joe's dynamic with Ellie. And what complicates it even more for the both of them is that they can't tell anyone the root cause. I think the root cause of all of this is the fact that Ellie is infected, which is why she goes through so much to hide it, which is why Joe can only tell his therapist that he saved Ellie. I feel like it makes the scene with Tommy make that much more sense. The scene where Ellie is screaming that she's infected, it's a big part of her that she has to hide. Joel and Tommy have to hide, making it so that Ellie can never truly live or open up to anyone, and neither can Joel. They end the episode not even talking to each other right before Abby and her crew attack the town. I think though that even though Joel is older and Abby has a small army with her, it's not going to be as easy as they think. This is Joel we're talking about. Remember what he did to the Fireflies solo last season? But once the infected get involved, I think we all know they will. That's when things go from bad to worse. But guys, that's just my thoughts. I'd love to hear your thoughts about it in the comment section below. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and until next time, peace.